Welcome back to Talk a Good Game, a show all about, you guessed it, good games. I'm your host, Andrew Wolf. With me today, modern-day explorer and revealer of video game secrets. He's the creator of the extremely popular YouTube series Boundary Break. Shesez, man, thanks so much for being here. I'm super pumped to talk about good games.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on.
What have you been working on lately?
So no episodes of Boundary Break just yet. I got to figure out what the audience wants to see right now. Do you have any suggestions for me?
More Xenoblade. I know it's
More
been
Xenoblade.
7 years since and you did like Wii Xenoblade, right?
Yeah. Okay. I do get occasional requests for that one, so maybe I'll throw it into a poll and see what people do with it.
Yeah. Is that how you choose?
What's that?
Is that how you choose?
Especially lately. I used to do it all the time, and then over time, I was just like, oh, well, this is a great opportunity. I shouldn't give people the chance to vote because it's hot and relevant right now and stuff. And I just kind of slipped out of asking the audience what they would want to see. And then recently, I was just like, yeah, you know what? Let's start polling again. And it's been a phenomenal help in terms of figuring out what my audience is actually interested in right now. Mouthwashing was one I would never think. Never ever, oh, I'll throw that on Boundary Break. I didn't even hear about it. Yeah. Someone just, in passing was like, oh, people are talking about this right now. And it's like, oh,
yeah, it's been real hot lately.
Yeah. And so I put it in a poll thinking whatever, just give it a chance, I guess. And it just overwhelmingly won the poll. And I was like, well, okay. And then I make that into an episode, and it's one of the best performing episodes of the show in years. So,
really?
Yeah. So it's okay, polling is pretty important. I think I should get back into that. Yeah.
So you've been polling people. You used to, a Patreon thing, but is it still your Patreon, or is it?
You used to do it on Twitter.
On social. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But what's funny is that Twitter is actually a very different audience from my YouTube audience. I think a lot of Nintendo people follow me on Twitter, and my audience on YouTube can be very different. It's really, really fickle, and strange, but there are definitely game genres that are well outside of Nintendo that end up performing better than any of the Nintendo episodes I've ever done, Portal, for example, or Simpsons Hit and Run. So my audience on YouTube is a very different polling audience. So
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and I feel what was it, a year or two ago, Nintendo came out with that updated social media policy or whatever, and they were no behind the scenes, or no oh my God, you can't show anything that isn't meant to be seen or something like that. I was like, okay, well, that's a little scary.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I made a tweet about that at one point. I was like, I feel personally targeted, but thankfully I've only been harassed. I like to use the word harassed by Nintendo once, and it was for an Animal Crossing episode that, again, I believe it wasn't necessarily my content, it was what people were writing about my content that caused an actual riff. And Nintendo was like, well, we can't have this,
Yeah,
but other than that, protective. They've left me alone, which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, at least you get the audience on YouTube is more than Nintendo, so that's cool. That's great.
You can
do Mouthwashing isn't even on Switch, is it?
I don't
Steam?
think so. I don't think it's on there just yet.
I don't remember, but that's one I need to jump into for sure. I heard especially a lot of industry people have been talking about how good it is.
No kidding. So. Yeah, it's a very good, if you like Silent Hill and if you like The Shining, I think it's a really good combo, and you probably would enjoy it quite a great deal. And even if you don't like those things, maybe it'll speak to you in a way that those other two properties don't. So,
and I saw The Shining for the first time 2 summers ago with my fiance. We were camping, and we brought a big battery pack and a projector, and hung up a screen between some trees, and it was dark. It was 9 p.m. and we watched it, and I can't imagine watching it in a better situation for the first time. It was fantastic.
That sounds like a really lovely vibe. Wow.
Yeah, it was great.
You two definitely think outside the box in terms of how to entertain yourselves. I like that. Yeah, I'll have to steal that one sometime.
A little glamping-ish, I guess, but...
Yeah, glamping. Oh, man, I could go for a glamp right now.
So we'll dive into these game topics right after. I have one question, especially talking about mouthwashing. So do you play the games before you boundary break them, or are there some games where you just dive right in?
I usually have to just dive right in. With Mouthwashing, it was short enough. It's a 2 hour and 30-minute game. I was like, it would benefit me to play through it first, because then you really don't know what is just going to be discovered later when you actually play the game, and what's actually out of bounds content when you've never played the game before.
Yeah.
So it does help quite a great deal. But then there's just games where it's like, oh, this is a 30 to 70 hour experience. And can I realistically play this game just for funsies and then start getting to work on a Boundary Break episode and still have the money to pay for mortgage? So, you know, so it's like in some cases I do have to just kind of cheese through it, kind of in some people's eyes ruin the experience. But in my opinion, it's like in a lot of instances like that, it's like, I don't think I would have been able to have the time to experience this game in any capacity if it weren't for my show. So the fact that it gave me an outlet to at least kind of explore some of the game's content and enjoy it in a different sort of way is still great, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I guess my alternative is like, if I don't think I'll have time to, I just watch somebody stream it, or I watch like a Let's Play of it or something. And at least you're getting something out of it. So
yeah, for sure. I could see that.
So let's talk about some good games. I want to start with your favorite game of all time. And you wrote down here on my list, Chrono Trigger. And I think most people know what Chrono Trigger is. I don't remember when it released. Was it in the it was in the 90s, right?
90s. I believe it was 96, maybe.
Let's see. Let's test your knowledge. 95 was Japan. Let's see what did it release in a different time in the US? No, August 11th, 1995.
Damn. Like. Oh, excuse my language, but
no, it's all good.
Same year as Earthbound, so it was a really good year for RPGs. Yeah.
So I feel a little bit ashamed, but haven't played neither of those.
Oh,
I know.
Man.
Well, let's see. I put some hours in a Chrono Trigger, but I feel like if you didn't play it at long, or like if you don't have the nostalgia for it, I'm not sure if it hits the same. Like I didn't have a Super Nintendo, so I never had a chance to play it when it was like fresh. Okay. But I'm curious why it's like a classic turn-based JRPG, right? Why is it your favorite game of all time?
Well, I will just say that I will disagree. I think that the game may be timeless. And the reason why I say that is because there's a lot of amenities in Chrono Trigger that you definitely didn't see back then. And with modern RPGs today, only sometimes do they adopt some of the things that makes Chrono Trigger such an accessible RPG. Mainly the non-random battle encounters. So all the enemies are on the screen and you have to touch them or they have to touch you in order to do the turn-based combat. That's huge, especially for 1995 and many games going forward, like I said. So there is that. And then there's also just the immersion factor that you don't even like transition into a battle screen. The battle just starts with your characters not changing in form or shape. The enemy is not changing in form or shape. They animate, they walk around the map. So, and in fact, the part of the strategy of the game is the positioning of the enemies. So the fact that like it just feels more immersive and engaging than your typical JRPG, your turn-based RPG. That's something that I really enjoy about it. But then the rest of the package is just brilliant. Like the music is so good. I don't know if you had like the music on while you were playing, but like, my God, the OST for that game it's still something that I go back to and I go like, surely I was just a kid that just liked one or two songs, but pretty much the entire soundtrack is worth a listen.
It's crazy what they were able to do with the hardware. Like in 95 on the Super Nintendo, like being able to make a soundtrack like that. And I agree, it is. I know the soundtrack is very well loved, but it's crazy, like on that hardware, what they were able to do. Yeah,
it's the sampling, the quality of the sampling that they could put on a Super Nintendo, where it's like, that's definitely a saxophone, that's definitely a triangle, and that's an electric guitar for sure. I love that about the Super Nintendo because there's far less imagination involved in terms of like, if you were to properly arrange these soundtracks for modern day, what would it sound like? It's pretty obvious. It's like, okay, I mean, all the instruments are there. All you have to do is just take it out of a 16-bit crunch and like actually perform it. So I love that. And yeah, there's a really good arrangement for these soundtracks, stuff that I just would never think to do, where it's like, there's a lot of like bass and saxophone combined together, or sometimes electric guitar and saxophone, stuff like that. It's like, okay, I as a person that occasionally likes to compose music just for fun, I would never think to put those things together in that way. Yeah. So yeah, it's brilliant. I love it.
Do you feel like, so you say it's timeless just because of like all the mechanics and everything? So for me, it's like, I don't know. I do feel like there is some part of it is nostalgia, but I agree. Like the story is also really good, right?
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
what I've heard. The story's amazing.
Oh, 100%. So it's got a lot of good levity to it. It's not super serious all the time, but it gets really serious at times, which I really like. It's a combination of you feel safe and warm. The soundtrack really lends itself to that, but there's definitely like stuff in the writing too, where it's like you have your mother wake you out of bed and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it kind of takes you back to your childhood. Or if you were a child, you could be like, you know, oh, this is my life. I understand this. But then there's just points in time where you just see post-apocalypse and everything about the graphics, the despair in everybody's voice, or not voice, but the dialogue that's being shared, and of course the music. It all comes together in such a perfect harmony of like, wow, I can't believe this game went that far. And there's other things too. There's, you know, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, it goes places. And it, not only that, it's like, it's not just about macabre. It's also just about touching your heart, you know, whether it be, loss or, finding oneself, or, just the kinship that you have with one another. And how deep does that go? I feel like Chrono Trigger does a really effective way of illustrating that for a game made in 1995, which is, that it really did a lot. And on top of all that, on top of the fact that the story, again, is digestible, but it can be poignant. I also think that, it's also well paced. It's only like a 30-hour RPG. A lot of RPGs back then, and even nowadays, you could spend up to 150 hours. Yeah. And if you're lucky, 80. But a 30-hour RPG, amazing. And then one last thing I'll add to this: it was the pioneer of New Game Plus.
Really?
I believe it was the first game to do that. Yeah.
Wow.
So, you know, carry over stats and equipment and stuff. That was the first game to ever do it.
Wow. I didn't know that. Do you feel like with this year, with 2025 being like the 30th anniversary of its release, do you see us getting like what do they call, like HD 2D remaster remake thing of it? Or do you think it's just they're gonna let it wither away?
I think both snares are like
equally possible.
Yeah, because there's a lot of love that they share for the game over at Square Enix, that like randomly one year it's just like, here's one of our composers just doing like a nylon string guitar remix of Chrono Trigger songs. It's like, okay, thanks Square. And then there's also just the fact that they add in Chrono Trigger whenever they can. It seems like the licensing is a bit tricky, but they have Chrono Trigger introduced in like Final Fantasy rhythm games and stuff like that. So there's a love for it for sure. And I've seen Square Enix talk about Chrono Trigger publicly as well, as far as like, this breaks my heart. But I remember there's like one news story where Square Enix was like, if we ever did a remake of Chrono Trigger, what would you want to see? And they asked like some creator, and the creator was just like, HD 2D. It's like, bro, no. It's like, I'll take that, you know, because I'll always have an excuse to play Chrono Trigger, but that's so there's no ambition in that, you know. Give me like Dragon Quest 11 style graphics where you can spin the camera around, you know, and like full 3D environments, you know, translate that world into 3D. Keep the gameplay the same.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder if people would be up in arms, though.
You think so? I
wonder if people would be, like, if they didn't release like an HD 2D version of it. Okay. But they just went like full on, you know, Dragon Quest 11. I think people might be pissed off, but maybe not.
You might be right. I mean, maybe it's easy to piss off anybody, frankly.
That's true. I know. Yeah, and it's very easy these days to piss people off. I was pulling up the I don't remember when it was, a couple years ago, and maybe it was last year, when there was like some NVIDIA hack or leak or something where like a bunch of games got leaked. It was originally published in November 2021. I was looking at the list of Square Enix games that were leaked in this list, and I think some of them have come out. So like Chrono Cross Remaster, we saw that came out. You know, like Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster, we haven't seen that yet. Kingdom Hearts 4. So like this was stuff that they were apparently like working on or was going to be announced. But Tactics Ogre Remaster released, but I don't see anything for Chrono Trigger. So
Yeah.
that doesn't mean they're not working on it, but
yeah, it could be that they're talking amongst themselves about what to do with it. I mean, the fact that they reached out to a creator probably like last year or 2 years ago was like, what do we do? It probably is like there's talks, there's probably conversations happening, but they haven't like started anything yet. So I guess the question actually stems back to, do you think we'll get something for the 30th anniversary? Maybe not. We could get an announcement and just be like, we're working on it, which that would be glorious. Oh my God.
We'll see.
I don't know. Like, I think I need to like, what's that?
As we get closer to August, we'll see if they.
Yeah. I think I need to probably invest in a life alert just in case that happens. It's like, this is too exciting. Please get me to the hospital. My heart's going to stop. Yeah.
You know, I think you do have a point about licensing though. And I think licensing is such a nightmare. Like I've been playing through last year, I played through the first 2 Xenoblade games and the expansions, and I'm playing through Xenoblade 3 now. And I'm like, man, I would love to play through the like Xenosaga, Xenogears, like the other Xeno series games, but I feel like they're stuck in licensing hell and like they'll never come to modern platforms. But
yeah, that is like, what is going on with those games? Do you know what the licensing problems are?
No, okay. I think like, because I'm like not super familiar with the series in general, but like Xenogears is owned by Square. Yeah, Square owns Xenogears, I think. So like I don't know if they would even be open to the idea of bringing it to new. I don't know. I just feel like licensing is hard.
Yeah, I believe that's fragmented across multiple properties. I think, I believe Mitsuda is the composer, and I think he probably has the rights to his songs, I believe. I know Yuji Horii made a new company, and that company bought at least partial rights to Chrono Trigger. So I believe Yuji Horii probably holds in his hands whether or not anything can be done with the property. And then something about Square Enix themselves probably has to also sign off on that, of course.
Yeah.
So
I feel like people don't think about licensing a whole lot when they get upset about like a game not re-releasing or like, you know, something not getting remastered. And I think that people don't appreciate it enough or like don't think about it, which is fair. As a fan, like you shouldn't have to think about licensing issues, but it's even super obvious ones that I wonder about, like is like Smash Bros Ultimate going to come to Switch 2? Like
right.
Don't like that game is full of licensing nightmares, right? Like I mean, depending on what sort of agreement they had, like, is it going to be available on Switch 2? And probably not, but I don't know. Licensing is a nightmare. I'm glad I don't have to deal with it day to day.
Yeah, exactly. I honestly, as far as Smash Brothers goes, if we're going to quickly talk about that topic, I think, well, with the fact that it's backwards compatible with Switch games, I feel like there isn't really a point to make a Switch 2 version. Yeah. I think that the best chance they might have, and I don't know how this works with the licensing, you know, there you go, trying to figure out the complexity of it, is can they just continue to expand off of Ultimate instead? Yeah. You know, can we just get more DLC? Is that possible with the licensed characters that are already on the product? Or is there something that stops people from producing more content for a game that has licensed character contracts attached to the base game? I don't know.
I would love to finally see Master Chief. Was it like the Grinch?
The Grinch leaks,
Grinch,
Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
That was another one.
There's a couple characters. I mean, like, I'm horrible at Smash. I don't play Smash because I'm so bad. But I get the hype. I love the hype, that people have for it. So can still enjoy that. So moving from a super well-known game, Chrono Trigger, to the next game on this list, a game you love right now that you feel is underrated, FANTASIAN Neo Dimension.
Yes.
It was just FANTASIAN when it released on iOS. Was it just iOS?
That's right. Just iOS. Nowhere else.
Did you play it when it was just on iOS, or did you play it when it came to consoles?
I think Apple products are the work of the devil, so I would never own one. And no, I definitely felt the devil's presence ever more when I was like, really, you're going to stop me from playing a Hironobu Sakaguchi RPG because I don't own you? Yeah, that's evil. Yeah. So no, I always wanted to play FANTASIAN because I believe in Hironobu Sakaguchi and his contribution to RPGs and stuff. And of course, so I'm super interested in what he's got going on. But I didn't have any method to actually play the game at the time, so it just kind of passed over me. And I was hoping that one day it would port somewhere else, hopefully. And here we are today, and my hope and my faith paid off. So
yeah, it released on consoles in December 2024, right?
I believe so, yeah.
And so this is a pretty classic JRPG, but it's got some pretty major people behind it, right?
Yeah, it's got Hironobu Sakaguchi at the director, I believe, or maybe just producer. But it also has music done by Nobuo Uematsu, the original Final Fantasy composer. And I believe it's his last major OST. So it's a big deal. You know, you get to hear some Uematsu soundtrack, and you also get to see old school Final Fantasy influence put into this game. It's pretty awesome. Outside of that, I don't know any like other big names attached to it, but
it's kind of hard to beat Sakaguchi, right? Like the father,
you got the top
of Final
tier.
Fantasy. So
absolutely.
And the I can't remember the composer's name. Oh, Nobuo. I think he was saying that this is his final full OST that he's going to work on.
That's right. Yeah.
Like he's going to continue to do stuff, but like this is his final full game OST.
Yeah, he's going to do like smaller stuff and all that, which is great. Glad that he's not fully retired, but yeah, I believe that this is his last full OST. And it's pretty good so far. It's not like one of his all-time greatest. It's hard to, keep coming up with the next best thing when you've already kind of made the best in the business to start with. But it still has his touch on it, and it's still an absolute, butter on the ears. I could have come up with a better analogy than that. But
well, I think it's also butter on the eyes. Like I think I bought this one. It's on my shelf. It's on my short list of games to play. But I love the like handmade models that they use for the background.
Yeah, me too.
It's like old games that used to like have the pre-rendered backgrounds, but they made like models for all the backgrounds. And then the 3D models run through the like model world, and it is just gorgeous. Even just looking at screenshots or gameplay, it's like, yeah, this is sweet.
It's doing something real special. I really like it. And it's very indicative of those PlayStation 1 RPGs where everything is just like it's pre-rendered. Mm-hmm. So the visual style of it's way more interesting and complex than like a fully, 3D world on the PlayStation 1 or whatever. And obviously technology has advanced quite a great deal since then. So normally you just get fully 3D rendered environments. But here with this game, they just kind of like went against the grain and they decided to make real life models and take pictures of it. And they took them from different angles and stuff. So when your character's running through, it shifts the angle of the diorama and stuff. And I thought when I was like, that's a really cool idea. I worry that it's going to look a little tacky. It doesn't. It really does just feel organic. It
looks really good. And it's like, it's obvious that they're models, but it's like in a good way, in a really good way.
Absolutely.
I was trying to think, because I would love to see more like handmade model backgrounds. And I'm trying to think of, there's this game coming out, and I've seen the announcement trailer. I'm looking at my Deku Deals wish list, but it's like claymation. And it looks like it's made by the people that did Little Nightmares, I think.
Well, I love stop motion animation, so that would be really cool.
Yeah, I can't remember maybe it's not by the Little Nightmares people, but I don't know. I'll think of the name after we're done recording, of course, and then
sounds good.
It'll be too late. So, so how far are you into FANTASIAN Neo Dimension?
So apparently there's two major chunks to this game. It's how they did it on iOS. Like they released the first half of the game, and later on they released the second half. And obviously for this package, they put both together to make one complete game. I'm still on the first half. I've heard that according to RPG Nuts, the first half is too easy, and then the second half is too hard. Yeah. And I'm over here on the first half being like, this is like the perfect level of difficulty I want for an RPG right now. You're telling me it gets harder than this? Yeah. Oh God, no.
But there's difficulty setting, right?
There is, thank God. So yeah, like apparently like on the iOS, there was just one difficulty setting. And for this one, they have that original difficulty setting, and then they have a scaled back normal difficulty. How generous of them to call it normal. Yeah. But like, even then, people were saying that they were playing it on normal and it was still just outrageously hard. So it's like,
I've heard that too. God. I'm a little bit nervous about that because I'm like,
too.
I would say like blanket statement. I'm not good at video games. I love stories and like I can't play the Souls games. I played like 20 hours of Elden Ring, but it was mostly just exploring.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I beat like one boss, but I'm just not. I'm not good enough. I don't have the patience for it. But I think I feel like I keep bringing it up, but I feel like Xenoblade has like taught me some patience. It's taught me how to grind better and like just embrace it. So I'm hoping by the time I wrap up Xenoblade 3 and I get around to playing Fantasia at some point this year, I'll have learned enough patience that in the second chapter or second part of the game, I can like grind enough to be able to not be frustrated. I don't know if that'll do it for me, but hopefully.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. That's the thing about this one, I guess, is that you're going to have to do a lot of grinding at a certain point. So yeah, I'm not excited about that. I do think, again, another thing that makes Chrono Trigger timeless is you don't have to grind that game at all. Like you just go through the motions and just fight the bare minimum amount of enemies that the game expects you to fight. You should be able to tackle that game without ever doing a grinding session. So just to kind of bring that back for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, more games should be like that. More
Absolutely.
games should be like that. I know people like hard games, but more games should be like that. So FANTASIAN Neo Dimension is $50, but there is also a demo. So if people are listening to this and they're not sold on it, looks like there is a demo, and I think the demo carries over to the full game. So jump into that.
Love those kind of demos. It's just weird that it didn't come out on launch day or before the game came out.
Yeah,
would love that. But
I'm seeing a trend. So I've got the full list of games we're going to talk about today, but I'm seeing a trend. I'm seeing a trend in this list of games. This question is another game you love right now that feels like it was made just for you. And I love your answer is another old game, Fire Emblem NES. You're like, I'm loving this game right now. I don't care, that it released in whenever. Like, it feels like it was made just for you. Why do you feel like it was made just for you? And also, it was released in 1990.
Yes. So I'm replaying it right now, and when it first got announced, I couldn't believe that this happened. So I'm not even a huge Fire Emblem guy, but what I am is a huge Nintendo guy. And with Smash Brothers having Marth in every single release of this series, I was like, I would love to play his original game. And I know that there was like remakes of that particular game. There's one on the Super Nintendo that also didn't come out in the US. Then there was Shadow Dragon on the DS, but every fan just completely writes it off and says like, just play a fan translation of the Super Nintendo one. And I'm like, well, there's this one that's made by Nintendo themselves. And like, I tried it out. I was like, yeah, this is gross looking. I don't know why they ever made this. And then there's the fan translation ones. And I was like, this doesn't feel legit. This doesn't feel real to me. And I don't want to play something that's like, at times I will play fan translation stuff, but for me, I'm like, I don't want to play this particular series unless it's officially released by Nintendo. So then one day, all of a sudden, out of blue, they even advertised it like this. They're just two kids playing Super Smash Brothers Melee, and Marth shows up on the screen. He's like, where is he from? It's like, oh, he's from like a game that's only in Japan. And then all of a sudden, boom, they show you footage of an old, crusty 1990 NES game, but with a full English translation. And I'm like, in my life, I have never imagined this would actually happen. But I've always said, like, if Nintendo ever did that, I would totally buy it. So not only did they do that, not only did we get like a full official translation of 1990 Fire Emblem, but also they came out with a special edition where it comes with an NES box, an NES cart, and like a Nintendo Power poster and stuff.
Yeah, I was looking at that with like the replica game pack, and it's like crystal clear. I was looking at
made for me, man. Yeah. Made for me. Like I'm like, I'm all about all this stuff. And this feels like a dream come true. It feels like something that shouldn't exist. So it really does feel like someone just like crawled into my buttered up ear and like, and decided like, holy crap, this is not a bad idea. We'll pull this out of this weird nerd's brain. And then they made it, man. They made it. So
and it was only $6. I mean,
it was only $6 for like, the digital download. Yeah.
The special edition
limited
was only
time
50.
only, which is the stupidest thing.
Yeah,
but.
I know. They keep doing that. I was looking too. It was like it released December 4th, 2020, and it was only available until March 31st, 2021. And then they just like, if you bought it, you can still download it or whatever. But even the physical like didn't come with a physical game card. So it was like digital totally digital only, which is a huge bummer.
I by the way, I'm a complete moron because I should have just never used that code and just like bought the $6 digital version because I'm sure that collector's edition is worth way more money with the functioning code, considering that it was a limited time only. The writing was on the wall and I still ignored it. But yeah, like that's like one of my deep regrets. I almost want to like look up to see how much it is on eBay now, but
no, don't pain yourself. I don't know.
Good idea.
It's not worth the pain.
It's not worth it.
So I'm bringing so much shame upon myself in this episode, but I've never played a Fire Emblem game.
That's fair. Yeah.
Full stop.
It's a complicated franchise. It's a lot more involved in terms of strategy and stuff like that. And it's very long paced. And there's a lot of consequences when you don't know what you're doing. So it's a very, very not beginner friendly series. It's gotten better over the years with newer releases, but like if you try to jump into NES version and you're trying to play by the NES rules,
don't start with the NES version is what you're saying.
No, I guess I wouldn't unless you're willing to actually use some of the features that the game provides, which is like rewind and stuff like that, save states, speed up.
I just pulled up my collection and it looked like I do own Fire Emblem Engage. I don't know if that is the right one to own. I think I should probably own Three Houses.
Three Houses is the one that a lot of people like.
Yeah.
I personally find like I hate the anime trope of high school kids doing like big adult things, and it putting that in Fire Emblem of all things. I was like, no, man. I tried to give it a chance because of how popular it was. I just can't get past how absurd that trope is. So, but if you don't care about that, I hear that's like a great place to start. So me personally, if I was to tell you to start anywhere, Fire Emblem Awakening on the 3DS would be like an amazing start. What's that?
Start there
because it kind of incorporates it's like the greatest hits album of Fire Emblem, and it has like all the things you kind of want to see in a story structure, and also it's the first one to introduce beginner friendly things like non-permadeath if you don't want that for your character, so you can have a character lose in a round and they'll come back the next level and stuff like that. So
do you feel like they're working on another Fire Emblem right now?
Yes.
100%. Yeah, coming to Switch 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those ones where it's rampant. Like, the developers got some monochrome of success, and they were just like, well, let's just put out 1 million of these. And I think they finally slowed down for a moment, I think, to put out, like, a Paper Mario game, maybe 2 of them. But I think it's coming back on the Switch, too. I think it's going to be sooner than you might think.
Yeah.
Personally.
So, it's, was the NES one turn-based? I guess, are they all turn-based?
They're all turn-based, yeah. And the NES one, it's very basic. You know, it's just kind of like rock, paper, scissors with a lot of how to handle certain situations and stuff. But like, it's just kind of cool to see the very first story and how the greatest thing about playing the original Fire Emblem is you can see the cadence and the personality types of all the characters that kind of make their way into Smash Brothers or get talked about in Smash Brothers and stuff like that. So that's the appeal to me. And then you get this, idea of what the main story was for the very first game. So it's fun.
You're mentioning Smash Bros. And I just remember like so many people like, we don't want another Fire Emblem Sword character in Smash Bros. Please, no. And then like there'd be a new announcement and it's like Fire Emblem Sword character. Be like, no.
Yeah.
But if you're a Fire Emblem fan, you love it. So
yeah, I suppose. Like for me, it's just like, I know there's people that are very, very like, hey, it's just great that we get any characters at all. I can't believe there's some people that like look at a character and think, oh, that's wasted development time because it could have been this character instead. I'm that guy though. Like whenever I see like Piranha Plant added to Smash Brothers, I roll my eyes so hard because it's like, you could have been Geno. You could have been something really cool, but you chose Piranha Plant.
Minecraft
Why?
Steve.
Yeah, and then we got to wait another like 6 years before like we can get another shot at like I don't know. Let me think. Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah. So Geno is who we keep coming back to Smash Bros. But I'm curious. Like, who's your number one? Like you want fighter?
It would be really cool to get Chrono, but it would also be highly unlikely, but way cooler too if it was Magus from Chrono Trigger. So I love that character enormously, and I think he would be a really cool addition to Smash Brothers. So I think that one would just drive me absolutely insane. Chrono would also just be just unbelievable. And I know that Sakurai is actually a fan of Chrono Trigger too. He's made a post once showing an image of the Mecha Dragon boss fight made in a level editor for Smash Brothers. So he likes the series. I just wonder if he ever tried to get a character in and he couldn't do it, or if he's just not interested just yet. Yeah. But it's on his mind. He knows of the series.
Yeah, it sounds like you need to get that life alert set up fast.
Yeah. Sooner than later. Yeah.
This year, and then if they announce some like crazy Chrono DLC and Chrono Trigger remake, like, yeah, it's going to be the end of Boundary Break. It's going to be the end of Shesez.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What about you? What would you have as a character you would want to smash?
Oh, good question. I don't know. I mean, like, I was always into the idea of like Master Chief. I mean, I'm not like a huge Xbox person, but I loved the first two Halo games. But like, I think Master Chief would be sweet. Like, throw some like weird stuff in there. I personally like Piranha Plant. I thought it was like, that is a super weird choice. I thought it was better than some of the other ones, like, you know, like Steve and that sort of stuff. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like, throw in some crazy, like Crash Bandicoot, Master Chief. I think the Grinch is too far, but some like
Doom Guy, maybe.
Yeah, Doom Guy would be cool. Yeah. I could see some non Nintendo or non classic stuff going in there.
Maybe the next Smash is going to be the FPS generation of Smash, because like last generation was like the RPG generation of Smash. Mm-hmm. We got Hero, we got Sephiroth, we got Joker.
Yeah, you're right.
I know there's more too, like some Fire Emblem characters,
some Xenoblade Pyra
characters.
Mithra. Yeah.
So there was a lot of
JRPG.
Right. So I feel like with that almost tapped out now, we need more Earthbound characters and we need more Chrono Trigger characters. But beyond that, I feel like, okay, maybe first person shooters, this is the gen for that, because we don't have a lot of those.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there even is any. I mean, Samus might count with Metroid Prime, but beyond that.
Fox, because he shoots. I know it's not like from an FPS game, but
third person, because you see the R-Wing and stuff. But I guess you can go into first person mode, so that's true.
But more like, I mean, with Metroid Prime 4 coming out, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe there'll be more. But I don't know. I do kind of wonder, like, Sakurai worked on Smash Bros. Games for so long, and I do wonder if he's just like, I don't know. I would love for him to bring the Pit is from the game that he worked on. I would love for him to bring that to Kid Icarus to Switch. I would love for him to like bring Kid Icarus to Switch, and then or also like maybe he's working on a new Kid Icarus or something. But I don't know if it's possible without the touch, like touchpad.
Oh, I'm sure you could definitely reformat it to basically use two sticks.
Yeah. And
I think a lot of people would have preferred that back in the day too. I would absolutely love a port. I would love a sequel. I think more than anything. I think like I'm very familiar with Kid Icarus Uprising in the back of my head, that I feel like a sequel would just be better for me.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also stuck on a low resolution handheld console, so it would be nice to kind of see that glowed up a little bit.
Yeah,
and put on a modern platform. So
yeah, I feel like
I would like that too.
I feel like the 2020s is like the 10 years of remakes and remasters and like re-releases, and I think we're seeing a lot of it from not just not from one single studio, but I think like a lot of people are bringing older generation stuff to new platforms.
So. What do you think of that? Because there's kind of a divisive opinion on that.
I'm a little torn. I'm like, I think it's good. I think it improves like accessibility. I think if more people are able to experience art, which I think video games are art, I think that, that's always a good thing. I do worry a little bit about investing talent in these remakes or remasters. Like on one end of the spectrum, Retro did the Metroid Prime remaster, right? And it's fantastic. It's maybe the best looking game, one of the top 5 best looking games on Switch. Runs super well, runs at 60 FPS. Like, it's incredible. And that shows like when you put a talented team, whoever at Retro was working on it, on a remaster like that or a remake, it's a good thing. And I think like makes it more accessible. It's the first time I played it. Like I think it's a net positive, but also it's like they could have been working on something new. Maybe that's not exactly how development studios work, but I think on the other end of the spectrum, like I've been playing Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, whatever they call it. It just came out a couple weeks ago. Not a super great port. And I kind of feel like it's like, yeah, you brought it to a modern console, but it's not a good port of a good game. And I think if you're I don't know, I'm a little bummed about that, but it doesn't seem like they put like an A tier team on it. So I don't know. I think I'm mostly torn, but I think ultimately it's a good thing to bring games to new platforms so that new audiences have access to them.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's a major positive. I will just say this. I've never seen like a drought of new games. I don't know. I've never felt that myself. I always think that there's always a new IP coming out every single year, and we're seeing sequels all the time, which is great. Maybe not for all the franchises I would love to see it on, but it still happens, you know?
Yeah, it's a good point.
And then with remakes, there's these ideas that just knocked it out of the park all the way back then. But visually speaking, we weren't there yet in terms of hitting the ceiling with what a game could look like. And sometimes like the gameplay is so great, or the storytelling was so on point. And just like one of the things that I feel like is kind of hitting a drought in the industry is just coming up with appealing, unique stories that are also just easy to follow, not overly complicated, not overly convoluted, and whatever else. So, in order to oftentimes get that experience, you have to go back. And so there's a lot of games I would love to see remade, just because their experiences, the way that they handled their gameplay and stuff, it would be great to reintroduce that to a new generation of gamers so that they can experience that and be like, whoa, this was really good. How come we don't really have anything like this these days? And then hopefully it inspires game developers to either make sequels or be like, well, hey, that Banjo-Kazooie remake did really, really well. Why don't we make our own 3D platformer that could be even better or something like that? Inspired, you know, because like one of the things that stinks is that something like a collectathon series, genre, for example, there seem to be some sort of narrative, at least propagated by fans, maybe within the industry as well, because of what we've seen out of that genre in later years. But there seems to be this collective opinion that's like, oh, no one likes collectathons anymore. It's like, where did you get that idea?
Yeah.
I think it comes from people making lame, not as good 3D collectathon games in like the GameCube, PS2 era, and you just saw a sales drop. Because it's like, well, no one's buying TAGG the Juju because TAGG is dumb.
Yeah.
You know? But if you brought back Banjo-Kazooie and you polished it up to look really, really pretty, made a couple of quality of life improvements, you know, and maybe some other features I'm not thinking of, but ultimately making it the same general game with better controls and everything. I think that would do so much to reinvigorate the brand and reinvigorate the genre and reinvigorate inspiration from developers, because that's definitely something we see a lot of, which is like developers being like, well, that worked for them, so I'm going to do it, like with Fortnite and stuff like that, you know? So it'd be great if they got inspired by things besides Fortnite.
Yeah.
For a change, so that we can see a better variety of game titles as well in the future.
Yeah, with the remakes and the remasters, I think the most major things I worry about is something like you were talking about how like we just didn't have the capability to hit that ceiling yet, and maybe like graphical capability or whatever. And I think a lot of times it feels like the artist wasn't able to fully realize their vision, right? So they had to sort of pull it back a little bit, but that can be artistic in its own way, where you're like confined to a box and you have to build this world inside that box. And there are things like the new Snake Eater, like Delta or whatever, the new remake that's coming out. There are artistic decisions that were made in the original that are like different in the remake. Like it doesn't have the green overlay, right? Like people were showing comparison screenshots and it looks great, but there's also like artistic decisions that were made back then that feels like that is what the game is, that are changed in remasters. And I don't know, I think like it's a new piece of art, so it deserves its own vision. But at the same time, if you're marketing it and pushing it as a remake, it is weird to do that. And I know there were things like, I can't remember what are the remakes, but games that came out in like the PS2 generation, there's some weird, I want to say it's like we're not capable of making the graphics in the same way because of the way that the hardware like rendered things. So it feels like there are missteps in some remasters and remakes, but like you said, ultimately I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I can totally see what you're talking about. With Delta, though, just to give it its fair chance because it's coming out soon, you can put on those filters.
Oh, really?
By choice, yeah. They wanted to show
I had
you.
no idea.
Yeah, they wanted to show you like, yeah, if you found this filter annoying, you don't like we by default will have it off. But if you're nostalgic for it, you can have it on because it does kind of give off a 70s vibe. Yeah. If you have it on, it's nice. Yeah. So that one does have it, but
I had no idea.
Within the same series, I will lend to your point, which is Snake Eater, for example. Like, I don't know if Kojima was deliberately trying to sabotage the project or something, but he was telling the team, he told the team, he was like, yeah, I want it to be more action packed. And they were like, well, don't you think we should just kind of stick to the script? And he's like, no, I want him to jump off of a helicopter rocket. It's like, oh, okay, Mr. Kojima, no problem. We'll do that for you. And then the fans were like, blech, what the heck? You know? Yeah. So it happens. Where you lose the vision, the original integrity of the original game. And it's like you said, like in some instances, it's that constraint that kind of breeds creativity. And that's actually part of why I love these remakes so much to begin with, is because some of them just kind of get too wide. It's just like, well, we can make an entire game world where you can walk around and do whatever. It's like, yeah, but what about like the appeal of something like Ocarina of Time where everything's kind of pulled in and constrained so that it's like a more tightly packed world with more things densely to do, you know, like you don't have to walk very far before you're hitting a village or going into a dungeon or whatever, as opposed to something that's very loose like Breath of the Wild. So,
it
is kind of nice when they do. Yeah, exactly.
I want more tight stories. I think you're right. I mean, I love Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Like, I love those big open worlds, but
me too.
Man, there is something great when it's like, there's this nice balance between it's like it's not holding my hand, but it's sort of like leading the way a little bit, just like giving me a little bit of enough direction that I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I don't have to like look up a guide or like ask a friend what to do. And like, yeah, there's something to say about that for sure.
For sure.
Let's see. So one game that you're most looking forward to that isn't available right now, and we've been talking about Retro and Metroid Prime, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond.
Yes.
And this looks crazy. So I do have a question to get us started. Do you feel like we've seen, so at the time of recording, we've seen one trailer, right? So we saw the announcement trailer, which didn't show anything. And then Nintendo came out and said, we're restarting development. And that didn't show anything, of course. And then I don't remember when it was. Was it October, September or something? We saw the one trailer for it. It looks fantastic. Do you feel like it is a made for Switch 2, but will play on Switch 1? Or do you feel like it is a made for Switch 1 that is going to play on Switch 2 game?
I'm going to be very, very surprised if it's only on the Switch 1. I mean, obviously you could play it off of the Switch 2 if you can, but like, I feel like this is going to be a launch title. I think it's going to be like what Breath of the Wild was for the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch, where it's like you could play on one or the other, but you're going to have a better time on this newer console. So that's what I'm hoping for. Yeah. I'm hoping that like there's a little bit of incentive that we've waited this long and that there's an incentive to buy that new console. And I'm really hoping that, you know, even though apparently industry experts are saying like, yes, this is definitely like something that is running on a Nintendo Switch. You can tell by this, that, and the other thing. I really hope that we get a Switch 2 version that's even more impressive visually speaking. And, you know, I'm just like, yeah. I mean, here's one other thing too. I guess this is like one of the biggest reasons of all that I hope there's a Switch 2 version. There is confirmed an optical sensor on those Joy-Cons, those new Joy-Cons. I would love to have body control movement with the left Joy-Con and and mouse clicks and mouse movement for the aiming. God, that would be so cool.
I was talking to a friend about that on last night or night before last, actually, and it was like, look, it makes I'm already comfortable with it. Just like if I sit at my desk or whatever, or even sit on the couch and like just set the mouse, the Joy-Con on the couch cushion next to me and control with my left Joy-Con, like I can tell it's comfortable already. So I'm psyched for it. I'm pumped for it. But
Yeah, me too.
I think I'm not super familiar with the Metroid series. Like I'm, again, really bad at games. I'm bad at Metroidvania games or Metroid games. So it's, but I am looking forward to it. I do wonder, like, if you're not super familiar with the main enemy in the game, and he's kind of like, what was he? He was in Hunters, or he was in like one 3DS game or something, right? Excuse me, I'm like totally unfamiliar with Metroid, but
it's okay. We forgive you. No, I'm only joking.
Yeah,
it's he was in a DS game called Metroid Prime Hunters, I believe. That's where you guys start. And then he also was teased at the end of Metroid Prime 3, I think. There's like special endings you can get at the end of pretty much any Metroid Prime game by completing the scan logs and stuff. So you get all the items, you get all the scan logs. Yeah, and you get like a 3-second little teaser clip. And I believe it's at the end of that one, because now I could be wrong and get called out by your audience or whatever. But
we'll forgive you.
Yeah, thank you. So like you could see it's Rundus. No, I don't think it's Rundus. I here I am being the fake fan. But you can see the ship that was used in Metroid Prime Hunters fly off and chase after Samus's ship. And so yeah, and then he shows up in the trailer for Metroid Prime 4. Yeah. So yeah, there's consistency there, but I would say that I think what you were trying to illustrate was your concern about whether or not you'd be lost in the sauce. And I think, no, all the games sort of do an excellent job of feeling like isolated adventures. But of course, if you played the previous games, there's like there's that character kind of deal.
Yeah.
But there isn't like a sincere need to be like, okay, I don't know what's going on, and it's because I didn't play Metroid Prime 1 or something like that. So, yeah, you should be okay.
Speaking of playing the other games, though, I was talking to Liam Robertson about this, actually, because it was his answer. Spoiler alert. It was his answer. It was the same. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond.
Good man.
And we were talking about, like, so they have the Metroid Prime Remastered, which is available on Switch, which we'll play on Switch too, because it's backwards compatible. Do you think they will release 2 and 3 remasters of 2 and 3 or remakes or whatever alongside or before Metroid Prime 4? Or do you think we're going to see like the complete series remaster available for Switch?
I do. I think that at least Metroid Prime 2, we'll see its day in the sun maybe before Metroid Prime 4. But there was like a leak that I'm definitely going off of where they mentioned like, oh, there's like a full remake sort of thing for Metroid Prime 1. And then it's going to just be a port of Metroid Prime 2. I thought that was an oddly specific thing to state. Like you would think that if someone was goofing on us and trying to get us to believe one thing, that they would just go a little bit more ambitious than that and just be like, yeah, and then after that, they're going to work on Metroid Prime 2, or they've already been working on Metroid Prime. But they specifically were like, yeah, they'll just kind of like have a port of Metroid Prime 2. And I'm assuming that that's true. I think that Nintendo's goal that we've seen recently is that they do want to try to get full collections of their games on these modern platforms, like Donkey Kong Country Returns. Wow, we got it all now. Yeah. It's all there. So the only thing that's missing, I think, is like Donkey Kong 64 at this point.
Yeah.
That's it.
I do wonder. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, and with Metroid, it's just, you got pretty much everything. You got Metroid Dread, you have all the Game Boy Advance ones, you got Super Nintendo and all that stuff. And I think like the only stuff that's missing is the rest of the Prime games, and then Metroid Other M that we will never see ever again because that game was awful.
I do wonder if, because I didn't play the original Metroid Prime when it came out, but I did play the remaster on Switch. And from what I understand, is there's some great quality of life improvements that they added to the remaster. Of like maybe the controls, maybe it's mostly the controls that are improved. I don't totally remember.
I believe you can do dual stick controls now with
So I wonder, like, even if they just port to, like, I wonder if they'll throw in some quality of life improvements like that.
I would say probably. Yeah, I'd say most likely. And I mean, with Metroid Prime 3, you got this issue of a lot of motion controls, but the Joy-Con can handle that. So,
yeah,
you know, But the question does become a lot of times with these ports is like, do we have an option available for people that are going to play in handheld mode?
Mm-hmm.
Which, thank goodness for that, because a lot of games have become playable thanks to that. Like, let's go Pikachu and Eevee. Like, I can't even imagine trying to play that on the TV.
Steam Deck has done a lot for like making games. Like people have to think about people playing handheld a lot, I think too. And so like the Switch and the Steam Deck have come along, brought games along in that way, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
So do you feel like it's going to be a launch title on Switch too? Or do you think of like launch year? Launch window?
We're talking about Prime 4?
Prime 4, yeah.
I think it is. I mean, frankly, they showed off Mario Kart, and I feel like, okay, if you got Mario Kart and Metroid, you got the hardcore and you got the normies. It's like, you got a 6. That's a great launch for a console right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's
That'd
very
be nice.
possible.
Yeah, I could see those being the launch titles, and then there, of course, will be more games in the launch year. But I think like big games, and then I'm thinking like, okay, 2026, do we get a new like mainline Zelda, or is that like 2027? I think you push it off
we got
a
some
bit.
ways to go. I think that we're going to see a new mainline 3D Mario game before we see a new Zelda.
Yeah, Super Mario Odyssey 2, right? That's my ongoing joke. I keep posting like Super Mario Odyssey 1, and people are like, what do you mean Super Mario Odyssey 1? And I'm like, please make a 2, or like a, Super Mario Galaxy 3, or
now you're speaking my language.
Yeah, a new thing. Like I'm into a new thing too. So I'm basically down for anything 3D Mario. I'm pumped. So
let's get Super Mario Return to Dinosaur Land. That'd be cool.
Yes.
Get like have something that's very focused on the Mario aesthetic, but also like it's fish out of water experience with like all the dinosaurs and stuff like that. That would be really cool.
That would be sweet. Yeah, I feel like they've been like with Wonder, with Super Mario Odyssey Wonder, or Super Mario Wonder. They got weird with it, like, and I don't know. I love when they get weird with Mario.
I definitely agreed with you to a point there. So like with me, like I do like it, but then also at the same time too, if something can feel more Mario-y, I like that too. There's a balance though, because there's the homogenized world of 3D World and 3D Land and stuff, and New Super Mario Brothers, and that's kind of boring. But then Odyssey and Wonder really get funky and weird.
They do. Yeah.
I would love for the two of them to kind of level out somewhere in the middle. Yeah. That would be cool.
Bring some funk, but also still be Mario.
Yeah, like I love the idea of New Donk City, but I don't love the idea of them all looking like real New Yorkers. Or
New Donk City was weird.
It's very weird.
It was weird.
Very, very weird. Yeah. And that parrot that just like has an unhinged jaw, and he like his mouth gets weird. Like 8 times its size of its body. Stuff like that. It's like, it's fun. It's quirky. I'm glad it happened, but I would love somewhere that's a little more reined in a bit. Give me like something that has a consistent Mario aesthetic at least. Yeah. That would be a good start.
Yeah. Yeah. If Nintendo's listening, I hope they take that into account and they change their plans.
Yeah, Nintendo. Well, yeah, me and Andrew both agree. It's that would be a good compromise.
Yeah. So that's all the questions I had for you. There was one last one where it was like any game that didn't make the cut that you want to mention. Like if we didn't mention it, I think you'd be upset.
Danganronpa.
I've been saying it wrong the entire time. Well, I would say Danganronpa.
So here's a little funny story to add to this. When my friend would talk about this game all the time, and he was like, you have to play it. I jokingly said, yeah, he's still playing Dinky Rumples. And, so for years, we would just affectionately call it Dinky Rumples. Yeah. So, I guess it's Danganronpa.
Danganronpa. Okay. Today I learned.
I think
that makes sense. Japanese, like softer letters.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I finally gave it a chance last year, and I loved it. I loved the first game. It was brilliant. Here's the thing is that it, like at the start of this podcast, I mentioned, the high schooler trope, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I think it's a miserable trope. Get rid of it. But ultimately, Danganronpa is a story about a bunch of high schoolers thrown into an unusual situation. But I kind of like this. I really, really liked it. It's a story that I'm trying not to spoil too much. I think the best spoilers I can definitely avoid, but you're a person that goes into a school for the gifted, and like they're hand selected people to be like, you're already like the best of the best and we're going to train you further at this school or whatever. And you go in, you're like the lucky student, and then you wake up and all the windows are boarded up and all the doors are locked. And there's this murderous bear that tells you all have to kill each other. And if you can kill someone and not get caught by the committee of other students on a class trial, then you get to go scot-free and everyone else dies. And it's so cool. It's great because it's like, you know, you get like a whodunit sort of story, but you get it multiple times until you reach the end of the game. And then there is a big plot twist at the very end that kind of ties it all together. So it's a great idea for a story. And
I know I keep saying this. It is on my short list. I picked it up. I picked up the physical, which has all the game. It's like all three of them.
Yeah.
I picked up the physical last year, and it's on my list to play.
Yeah, I recommend it.
So did you just play the first game?
Yeah, just try to focus on the first game. Don't feel daunted at the idea of having to play all three. You might feel enticed to play the second game after you finish the first one, but ultimately, my takeaway was the first game as just a standalone playthrough was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. So, yeah.
And it's created by Kazutaka Kodaka. Did I say that right? I don't know if I'm saying names.
Yeah, what has he done?
I was looking at the list because I know he's got a new one coming out, the 100-line Last Defense Academy. That comes out in May of 2025. But I was looking at like some of his other stuff, Jake Hunter, Danganronpa. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
He worked on all of those. World's End Club. He was the director on Death Come True, Master Detective Archives Rain Code. So he's worked on a ton of, you know, like those similar.
Yeah, it seems like his breakout was Danganronpa, and it's one of the best. I do like a good Ace Attorney game. Have you ever played that series?
Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone was always saying like, well, if you love Ace Attorney so much, try Danganronpa, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't know, high school kids. But like, yeah, again, once I gave it a chance,
it's
I was
worth
like,
picking up.
It's like, oh yeah. I think that like the moment to moment storytelling and gameplay and stuff like that actually kind of plays out better than Ace Attorney, because Ace Attorney has those filler chapters and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like the Big Top Circus, if you can recall, something like that, or the Steel Samurai chapter in the first game. But with Danganronpa, it's like you're consistently, the stakes are raising, suspicions are raising, you know, and intrigue is constantly thrown at you. So it's like, okay, I'm getting lots of dopamine at any given time that I'm reading this story. It's kind of cool. So yeah, it's a big recommend for me. It's a very unlikely title out of, if you're like really kind of like, I want to figure this Shesez guy out. You know, I would say over and over again, these are things I don't like. And so you would be like, no, Danganronpa would never be something that Shesez would.
Not up his alley. But apparently it is.
It makes the cut. Yeah.
Well, if you liked that, then, and of course I haven't played it, it's not out yet. The 100-line Last Defense Academy. He directed the game. He's also writing for it. It looks like it releases April 24th, 2025. So like be on the lookout for that. Watch trailer for it or whatever, because I imagine it's going to be along the same lines. I don't really know though, so we'll see. Well, Shesez, man, thanks so much for hanging out with me, talking about good games. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything, maybe any obscure Boundary Break videos you want to plug? Anything at all?
Yeah. So I have a new channel. It's called Shesez the News. And on it, it's, I guess the kids are calling it slop content, but I always wanted to be a slop content creator on top of everything else, because I like to be able to express opinions and talk about relevant news stories. And that's exactly what that channel is. It's whatever is relevant and interesting to me in gaming news. I'll hop on camera, talk about it for a little bit, and kind of share my opinions about it along the way. It's a little baby project, not a big audience right now. So anybody that subscribes to it becomes a major help, a major contribution to helping the channel kind of take off at some point. So that's the big one. The other thing that I just want to mention that's kind of cool is, this might be one of those things where it's like people are going to look at this 4 years from now and be like, he never did anything with this idea. But I'm actually very, very engaged and moving forward with trying to make my own visual novel game. So can't talk about it too much. So that no one poaches the idea, but like I have a unique idea that no one's capitalizing on, and I'm excited to hopefully bring that out to the gaming public at some point. Yeah,
I'm very excited about that. I knew about the news, but I'm very excited to hear more about this when you can talk about it more. That's awesome.
Thanks, man.
So what about your social handles? Where can people find you?
Sure. It's a Boundary Break on Twitter. So like no spaces, just at Boundary Break. I believe it's at Shesez on Bluesky. And you can just type in Boundary Break on the YouTube search engine and you will definitely find my video first. So if you want to check out the main channel, that's where you can do that. And Shesez the News is also on YouTube as well.
Awesome. Well, I'll put all the links in the show notes. It'll be super easy to click those and you won't have to do any searching or anything. But thanks again for making time to be here and talking about good games, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Thanks, man. Hope to be here again soon. That'd be great.
Cool. Peace.
All right, later.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Talk a Good Game. This show is produced by me, Andrew Wolf, in Seattle, Washington, with music by Plus Minus One and art by Sonny Ross. Find more good games, create a wish list, and build your video game collection on DecoDeals.com. Deku Deals Patreon supporters experience the site and mobile app ad-free. Join now at patreon.com/DecuDeals. The best way to support TAGG is by leaving a review, and you can suggest a game to be featured on a future episode by sending an email to tagg@DecuDeals.com.